Good evening. Thanks everybody for tuning. There we go. Tuning in to another one of our weekly wine geekery online chats. Today we are featuring. Today is this week, really the first week of August, depending where you are, sort of in the world, is International Albarino Day. It's usually August 1st, but we kind of are pushing it till Thursday to look at some really great wine from Spain. Albarino and Friends is our theme this evening. And I'm going to just do kind of a quick run through. I'm not going to be here this evening. Lots of people ask. Thanks everybody for asking. I'm doing much better after my quick relationship. I spent a little time with COVID, and I luckily this evening we have Michael, who is from Euro. Euro's got some of the best Spanish wines, so it kind of was a no-brainer. He's going to be pouring this evening, and I am just going to kind of do a kind of quick run through of these really great wines. I don't want to make it be such a fast thing that I seem to be dismissing these wines, because not only my favorites, but these are some of our Thursday night family's favorites, and just the overall shop's favorites. We love Spanish and Portuguese wines here, and these are some of some of the best. The first one we have is actually new. The Albarino is new here. I've not had it before. Michael introduced that to me last week, and it's just outrageously good. A couple weeks ago, we brought in a Vino Verde, and that became sort of everybody's favorite new wine. I think we have another a competition for people's favorite new wine. It's a great price. It is, so Albarino, also called Alvarinho if you're in Portugal. It was born before Spain and Portugal were two different things. It's from the Iberian Peninsula in the region in Galicia, Spain, down where kind of Vino Verde region is. So sort of we're all that one big area, and Albarino is from that region. It's a really interesting grape. It's really small, super thick skinned grape, but it's also pretty temperamental. A lot of thin-skinned grapes are kind of rugged. This one's not a super rugged grape, but it does very well in the right climate. It can't be very moist. It can't be too hot. It needs a little bit of a cool breeze. So this region, the Galicia region, Ris Baxis region in Spain, it just creates this perfect region for it. One of the things that's kind of interesting about Albarino, because of where it grows, it's temperamental, and not a lot of other grapes grew in that area. They kind of are isolated from other areas. So even in Portugal and Spain, there are some of the oldest grapevines that are still existing today of any kind of grapes are some of the Albarino, and actually some Graciana, which are the last one, grapes. And so it's kind of cool. We are in the Albarino that we have tonight is ungrafted. I'm pretty sure that's the one that's ungrafted. A few of the Albarinos that we've had in the past that we've talked about were also ungrafted. Just means running on original rootstocks, because phylloxera never made it there. And so that doesn't mean that much to that many people. It's just something I think anecdotally to me, it just seems kind of cool. But Albarino, the Spanish version of the same grape, it is a super, super summery wine. Medium bodied, but the mediumness of the body doesn't get in the way of drinking it. It's not like a big, full, heavy wine in your mouth. It just has a little bit of texture. But it is just the typical, not even thinking about this one specifically, the typical Albarino has really interesting lemon zest, a nice citrusy, sometimes tangerine or mandarin, not sweet, but that mandarin flavor. So a good Albarino, one of the ones that we have that does really well, the Nordico Albarino, for instance, often has you feel like there's like a resonance of a mandarin orange, not the sweet part that's left over. This one that we have today, the Pazzo, it's kind of a lush wine. It feels pretty heavy. It reminds me a lot of Viognier. And it's not that it's off dry, but it has such a pleasant fruit flavor to it. You don't realize kind of how tart it is as you're drinking it. It's really just this wonderfully delicious kind of white wine. A touch of a feel of effervescence, because it's got a really intense acidity. So it's not effervescent like a Vino Verde might be, but it does have that feel because it's got a really almost bracing acidity. And it's super easy drinking crowd pleaser. And this one, all these wines tonight are great values. They're all under $20. This has got sort of medium on that weight feel, but it has where some of them have a lingering orange, sort of orange fruit derivative. This one, it's the what's kind of leaves you what is left at the end is this really, it's not like lemony like lemonade, but it's like a lemon zest like that. Almost you can feel it like the oil or the zest of a lemon. That's kind of what's left over. Super refreshing. It's just kind of easy to drink. It's one of those wines that you can just pour it in any white wine drinker's glass and they're gonna like it. Almost everybody who drinks white wine is gonna say, "Wow, what is that?" Even like people that are not wine drinkers at all, they that'll have a glass of white wine, but they're not like wine snobs, they're not wine geeks. They just like to have wine in front of them because they like to drink wine. They don't care. They'll drink it, and it's one of those double take kind of white wines, and it's $12. It's a really really great. It's Piezio Pazzo Albarino, um, and I want to say also if the Michael who's helping me from Euro really kind of came through. The wines that we were supposed to have, I was out for a week. The wines that we're supposed to have tonight didn't come in yesterday, so I contacted him last night. He brought them in himself. He's coming in and pouring to himself, and so really kind of came through with these great wines. And this was introduced to me. I'd never had it before, and I just think it's outrageously good. It is also it's a time of year when I start thinking about seafood and fishing and fish. This wine, it's the only other wine I think that we have had here that's more, not more, but as I drink it and I think I wish I was eating fish, is a pecorino, an Italian white wine. It reminds me a little bit of that in the lemony, but it's not over lemony. You almost don't know it's lemon. It's kind of like you can smell an orange and you open your eyes and you oh, that's a lemon, that's an orange. That lemon flavor is just really lays there. It's a really interesting, wonderfully super easy to drink glass of wine, and I'm really glad. Oh, the reason why I was talking about I'm a little bit foggy still. So I didn't get the wines in until like 3 o'clock today. So again, if you're just now looking at your email and seeing your weekly wine geekery, I never send it out until I have a wine to make sure. Because a couple of times, and you'll probably remember, I sent it out and we didn't have the wines, and so I'm doing a tasting that didn't match at all what we had. So I got the wines. I was able to taste them and kind of work through and get these together. A couple of them I've had. 2 of them are brand new to me, so that's why that kind of came out so late. Um, anyway, this is just a truly easy drinking, wonderful white wine. Again, I'm not. I always say I'm not a big white wine drinker. But I drink a lot of white wine. I never think of white wine as like that sophisticated. I kind of want to do one of these things. I always just think of white wine as I have no problem filling up a pint glass with ice and pouring white wine over it and drinking it on my deck, and especially a cool one with the house wine logo. And so but this one has just a little bit more. It could be sophisticated enough for like the wine drinking people. So okay, so that is the Albarino. The next one is one that we've had here in our shop for a while. Kind of came and went. 2 vintages back, they didn't make a great vintage, and so it wasn't available. I mean, it was available, we didn't buy it. We're back now to the new vintage, and it's outrageously good. Again, this one's $11.99. It's the Montebuena Rioja. So we're going to explore a couple of different styles of Rioja. Three very different styles of red wine from Spain, or the Friends, the Albarino Friends tonight. The point of them all is easy drinking summer wines. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. Again, when I think of summer wines, I think of big bold flavors that can go with cookout, and it's Spanish wine. So I think the only thing they eat in Spain is meat. And so all of these wines are great with meat. Even it's funny that the winemaker's notes that I was reading last night when I found out what I was going to get before I even had it for the Pazzo Albarino, they even recommend, you could go with the steak salad. Like they just can't accept that you're going to have a meal that's not got some kind of beef in it or something, or pork. Boar is what a lot of them serve. But the Montebuena Rioja so that one's 100% Tempranillo. So in Rioja's again in Italy, most of the places the wines are named after the region or the location. Rioja's a place in Spain. But two of our wines tonight break that. So Albarino isn't a place; it's a grape from a particular place. And then the next one we have is going to be Cabernet Sauvignon, and so that's also a great non-place. Montebuena, the Montebuena Rioja is one of our best selling. The years that we have it, that it's been a vintage for me to bring in, and that's one of the things that I love about it is it's not always exactly the same. It's always slightly different because it's very vintage specific. It's still small. It's still a small enough hand produced winery um, that it varies greatly from vintage to vintage. And this one's outrageous. This one is back up to the 92 and suckling. It's got 95 from a couple of bigger producers, and it's a $12 bottle. It's just outrageously good. It's got a lot of that oak, like not feel parching, but that toasted oak aroma with a little bit of coffee and chocolate. Really super easy to drink. Screw top, and it is the kind of wine that. And I think I used this when we had the two vintages back. It was the last time that I used it for a tasting, and it's still I still have one of those left. It's an $11 bottle of wine, but it's got a 12-year, 13-year shelf life. Not at my house, but this is something that could last for a while if you wanted it to. But it is the wine that I have anytime I have burgers. This is the wine that I use. And I'm not sure exactly why. I think there's a little bit of that mocha chocolatiness, but not like chocolate you're biting into, but that hint of like more like dark cocoa and sort of like pepper spice. So it tastes a little bit like burger. It just matches really well. It's a screw top, super easy to drink. It's $12. That's the Montebuena. So we keep that in our shop. It's over on the right. I'm pointing as if you know where I am, but so to my left of where I am is the where we kind of have what would be stacks, where we have our kind of value wines. Most of those are $10, but this is at $12. It's a crazy great value. High rating, even from Parker and Suckling, who are usually harder to get good ratings on less expensive wine. But it's one of those full-bodied, super easy to drink wines that it's got tannins and it's a little bit soft. And it's great with food. It's probably my favorite Rioja that's 100% Tempranillo with food. Rioja, the region in Spain, primarily most of what we see is Tempranillo or Tempranillo Grenache blend. And some of the higher end, very high end Tempranillo or Riojas have what we're going to have the very last grape that we have today. I've never seen it except for the one that we have tonight as 100% or in anything except for Grand Reservas. And usually in a Grand Reserva, it might have 3 to 8%. I think we have one on the shelf now that's got a 13%. But I'll talk about that when we get to it. So this one, the Montebuena is 100% Tempranillo. The next one that we have today is Cabernet Spain. Again, 100% Cabernet Sauvignon from Valencia, Spain. 100% organic, all organic made. Organic grapes and organic processing, two different things, but it's certified organic. The thing that's really interesting about this is I was a little bit on the fence about bringing in the Cabernet Sauvignon because Spanish cabs, and you'll see on my shelf, I rarely have them when we have them. I only bring them in when I think they're just excellent. Often they're good value, but they're not. It's not a great value if it isn't good wine, right? And so most of the time, Spanish cabs are not ones that people here like that I think are going to do well here. This one is really good in that it doesn't taste like the big heavy Cabernet Sauvignon that we might get a West Coast New World cab. This tastes like an old world wine. It tastes like a Spanish wine. The barreling adds toastiness, not a whole lot of chocolate, but there's also. So this is the Valencia, Spain is a bit warmer at the end of the year than some of the other places. So we get this raisinated hint. It's not like full raisinated like maybe in a Passamento style, one of those drag wines, but it has this really interesting in the middle palate. So drinks. It feels like a cab. It's kind of bold. It's a robust wine, but then as it kind of lets itself go, um, meaning it doesn't stay super heavy. The mid palate, a couple of interesting things happen, and that's where this raisinated kind of flavor takes over. And it's almost the first time I tried it, the first time when I just tried it, when I wrote the notes today. When I first tried there was so much going on. I couldn't even I wasn't even sure if I liked it or what I like if I wasn't like evaluating it. I was just sort of like this is so wine geeky, but I was like exploring it. I was like, huh, like what is that? It took me a minute to realize it was a cab. I had to search for it to realize it was a cab. But it was just full of really interesting flavors. Not a lot of blueberry and chocolate, but we get out a lot of the West Coast cabs. But it was the tannins are kind of they're not like chewy. They're kind of hearty. They're just sort of there, but they're not rough. So they just kind of feel on the side of your mouth and bring in this really interesting black plum flavor or plums. I guess not black plum. Maybe I was thinking black cherry, but it's not really cherry. It's more plum, but like dark plum, not super ripe plum, but like a plummy. How many times I can say plum? Maybe it's blackberry because it's a little juicy too. But then you get a little bit of the toast feel of the oak where it's kind of warming, and that's really sort of what it finishes with. So you get these really interesting flavors. And if you're a cab drinker, it's like $13 or something. I should have had prices written on my sheet, but it's really got. It's not a wine. I wouldn't call this one a super crowd pleaser because I don't think very many cabs are. It's not a light, super easy drinking cab that everybody is just going to sit down and say that's my favorite cab. What it is a really interesting, great glass of wine that's really good for somebody that wants to explore something new and interesting. The flavors end up being very good, but it's got a lot of interesting flavors. So it's more of a wine geek's wine that you want to try and say, wow, yeah, I want to try it. It's $12, so try it. But it's not one of those. I think people throw that crowd pleasing term around a lot. It isn't one of those. I think there's a lot of people that the tannins might be a little much for them. And so, not that it's super tannic, but they're different. They kind of sit there and let the rest of the flavors sort of unfold in them. But it's great, and I think we'll see tonight. So far, Michael's actually right now already pouring, so you can come in now, and Mike's going to be pouring for people tonight. I'm going to get out of here in a minute, but it really is something that is interesting, but not peculiar. Where you'd like, I don't know. It's one that I would buy again. I would drink again. I could see having this as one of my lists. A couple of years ago we had a Spanish wine as a glass pour for a while because it was really good. It was kind of like this, where it doesn't necessarily bark the Cabernet Sauvignon flavor that we are used to getting, where it's sort of velvety. It's not velvety smooth. It's a little silky, but it's not plush. Like warming on the sides of your mouth. But it's a little bit more robust and a little bit more rough on the sides. But it's really interesting, and that makes it great with food. If you have the tasting notes, I didn't actually put food ideas on there because I never came up with what I thought I would have with it. I still don't know what I would have with it now that I think about it. It would be, it's a great steak wine because it's got that robustness. But I almost think I would want to do it more with like a heavier Mediterranean style pasta. Maybe not necessarily Italian, but like one of those Greek pastas that have a little bit more, or a Spanish mixed red sauce kind of dish, or steak on a stick because it's Spain. I don't know what I would. I'd have to really think about it a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to go to the Voche Reserva, 2014, and definitely open it up and let it sit for a bit. It's almost 10 years bottle, and so it needs a little bit of air, it needs to breathe a bit, and when it does, I mean, I've had this sitting in a glass for an hour, and it already it smells and tastes like a different wine than when I poured it. Um, it reminds my first sort of pull off. Okay, so the Voche Reserva is what I was saying. This is made, so it's a Rioja. It's made from a grape that is grown almost exclusively in the world in Rioja, 97% or something like that. 95% of the Graciano grapes in the world are in Rioja, but it also grows in Italy, where I think I would contend, or some scholars that I read suggested. So it's from they have it on Sardinia, and what's called Colarghe. I'm saying that wrong, I think. But there's a chance some of the old wives' tales in Italy, the same people that said Cananao, which is from Sardinia, predated Garnacha in Spain. The same people say that the Canigli predated the Graciano, which is what this grape is called, in Italy. And there's some evidence to suggest that it was brought they grew together in the same little, I think it's called Titus coastal region. It's all coastal because it's an island in Sardinia. But one little small village is where most of what this grape that grows in Italy, also where they found some of the earliest remnants of Cananao. They think it might have been taken together to Spain because it grows in some of the same areas, the Garnacha. Either way, there's the parts of Spain where this grows in Rioja are very isolated. It was always really small batches. It's almost never poured exclusively until now. So it's like a new twist on an old grape. I think that was how I described it in the Weekly Wine Geekery. Some of the oldest grapevines, again, like the Albarino, some of the oldest grapevines that exist today anywhere of any kind of grape are these Graciano grapes. And there's some 300 and 400-year-old grapevines that are Graciano in Spain. There's some Graciano in Languedoc, France. It's got a different name. I don't remember the name of it. It's grown in a few other places, but primarily it's a Rioja grape now. And in Rioja, most of the time, it's a very small percentage added as a blending grape. And it's super aromatic. So, and it's a really interesting. Now this is one of the. I feel like there's a little bit of cassis, cassis. It has an interesting flavor. The nose is fruity, but it's also got like a different sort of cassis type of flavor with like balsamic vinegar. Yeah, that's the. Should have put that in the notes. Now it's opening up. It's like it's got a little bit of balsamic note. Yeah, that's really interesting. But when I first took a sip of one that was open, it really reminded me of a Chateauneuf de Pop, where it's got this really plumminess. Dark fruit, plumminess, but it's not heavy. And I think of the balsamic piece is what makes me like plums and strawberry with that like almost like a summer plum and strawberry salad with balsamic dressing that you ate that 10 minutes ago. That sort of flavor that you have left in mouth. And that's kind of what made me think of Chateauneuf de Pop. But it's got a nice mineral bit, so it's refreshing, and it finishes with just a touch of like green olives. Oh, so I didn't write anything for this either. This would be great with like a tapenade. I'd like it to be Spanish, so let's say I can come up with the name of a Spanish named tapenade. But This is a Graciano. So two things about this. One is just kind of interesting and different. Never seen. This is the first time I've ever had 100% Graciano. I've never even seen 100% Graciano before. It's pretty intense, and the intensity of the aromas and the intensity of the flavor is one of the reasons why it's used only like. We see Petit Verdot is often just a blending grape. Now there's more that we see that is coming more and more. And I think wine geeks in Spain, because they have the access to these super old vines, and they have that has this really different flavor. It's wildly different than Grenache. It's not like polar opposite. It's just very different from a Garnacha. Nothing like a Tempranillo. It's its own grape. It's got similar profile, but I think this like herbal, like green herbs and green olives, with like, but it also has like a shoe leather. I don't know why I have to say shoe leather, but this leathery feel at the finish. Again, this has got huge points, 95 points from Decanter and from Josila, who's a great reviewer. A lot of what I learned from a while ago when he was writing. It's kind of in the center, though. For is sort of wide, like diverse as the palate is as you're drinking it, all the different interesting flavors. You still get a nice juiciness. That's the part, and the reason why I was talking about Garnacha is so much of what I read talked about comparing it to Garnacha. I don't get the flavor, but I do get the juicy feel. It does have a juiciness that you get out of some Garnacha. Not much of the flavor. The flavor is really interesting and distinct. Huge food wine. Of course, this is one of, now I'm drinking, I'm thinking, wow, there's so many great things that this would go with. Maybe it's just that I'm hungry now. I'm going to have to order a pizza. Pizza Primo, I don't know which one it is. If they know me, they just open the phone and say, open. They don't open the phone. They answer the phone. And you want the regular, I don't remember what it's called. I think it's the classic, or maybe that's just what they call it, but it's got a little bit of that olive flavor, kind of intense. I think that would go great, but I think I'd have them throw some green olives on it. I love to match food, like actual flavor in the wine with actual flavor in the food when it's subtle. When you have to think, what is that? Oh, that's what it is. That kind of thing. And this has that with the green olives. Wonderful wine, $16. All three of these wines are wines, the red wines, are great ones just to try because they're a little bit different. But you're gonna like it, and you might end up loving it because they're a little bit different. There's not a lot of wines out there. There's nothing out there like this. Especially this is almost 10 years in the bottle. It's got age in it. It's got high ratings, and it's $16 or $17. Super food friendly, but not food friendly in a broad palette. You really have to make sure you kind of balance it. I would think about the kind of food that I would pair with this, because all these wines, just like Italian wine, Spanish wine, you ought to eat with. It's made to eat. Like there's not a lot of eating going on in Spain without wine, it just has that really nice soft start, explodes to juiciness in the mid palate, and ends with the nice like soft herbal olive thing that makes it great with food. So those are the wines for tonight. And I'm not going to be here. Lots of people have asked. Thank everybody who asked. I am doing much better after my dance with COVID, but I am lucky that we have this great staff here that really kind of kicked in and helped us out. And Michael is going to be pouring for me tonight. I'm going to get out of here, but these wines are great. We've got them. I'll be around tomorrow if you want to come by. We're going to have. I got plenty because I know that everybody that's going to drink. Everybody that comes in is going to buy one or two of these bottles at least because they are differenter enough and yummy enough that you're going to want to go home and try these with food, or you're going to want to order something from Pizza Primo. But these are, of course, this is a tasting of Spanish wine. If you've watched this enough, you know Spanish wine is one of my favorite places, favorite styles. So I'm missing that, but it's been we've got a lot of great wine. Come on down and try it. Thanks everybody who asked. I'm doing great. Everybody here is doing great, and we will see you next week. And I'll be here next week. So thanks. See ya.